Do you think it really is just a search for truth and beauty? Is that what this is really all about? Well, that's what I felt as I was reviewing this Jadis, the Orchestra Black 40 watt per channel integrated amplifier. It is a beautiful object. It's stunning looking. It has its own style. It doesn't look like anything else. It's unmistakably a Jadis. It's made in France. Wouldn't be a Jadis if it wasn't. It's the stainless steel chassis is chrome plated. The feel of it is just sumptuous. It feels like a real thing. Now, one of the things, before I go any further, I want to forget this, is it is just an integrated amplifier. It has no digital inputs. It has no headphone jack. It doesn't even have a phono input. It's just a straightforward integrated amplifier. It has 5 pairs of RCA inputs. It has a record out. I'm not sure what people use that for anymore, but it has that. You could put an equalizer like the Shit Manny in line with it. I don't know too many people would, but it's there. It has a record output. The fit and finish is really up to high standards. It's all point-to-point wiring internally. There's no circuit boards. The transformers, the output transformers, are designed and made in-house by Jadis. That's what they do. They make their own transformers. Not everybody else does. A lot of big names in tube electronics don't make their own transformers, but Jadis absolutely does. And yeah, it's made in France in a time where a lot of companies are doing their stuff overseas, not Jadis. So that's all really impressive stuff. The output tubes are 6 CA7s. They're sort of an EL34 variant. The driver tubes are 12 AX7s CC83. Everything just worked. It just worked. No hiccups, no buzzes, no noise, very, very quiet. So for speakers, I used basically 3. I had the big Klipsch's, the Cornwall 4s. I had Kef R3, and also the little Dynaudio Evoke 10. Of those 3, I think the R3 was the least simpatico. It worked pretty well, but I thought it was a little thin sounding, and that's not a thin sounding speaker. But the Cornwall and the Dynaudio Evoke 10, perfecto. They were just stunning. As for the sound, it's one of those tube amplifiers that cuts it right down the middle. It's not overly romantic. It's not analytical. It's right in the sweet spot, right in the middle there. The word that popped into my head as I started listening was velvety. There's a smoothness to it, but still, definitely, there's clarity, there's transparency in there, in spades, big time. So the tubes are exposed in these pictures that I'm showing, but there is a tube cage that comes with the amplifier. The price, by the way, is $39.95 in the US of A. Jadis, by the way, I should have said this up front, has been around. They started in 1983. I remember selling them in the 90s at Sound by Singer, and that's when I first really was exposed to Jadis. And this amp, at first I wasn't going to review it because I thought it was more expensive than it is, $39.95. I just had this impression that Jadis are expensive amplifiers, meaning more expensive than $39.95. But when I heard the price, I said, I want to do this. And now that I have it here in Brooklyn, I'm thrilled that I said yes. Like I said, I've been amiss. I haven't reviewed a lot of tube electronics, basically since I started this YouTube channel. But if there's more going to come, certainly if they measure up at least to this Jadis. As for music, well, I've been in a Grateful Dead mode lately. I've been listening to a lot of Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia, and especially the acoustic-oriented albums by the Dead and Jerry. So there was a rightness to the sound. It's very analog, very acoustic, very round and warm, but again, not overly so. Is this the sound you can sink into? Maybe that's a way of putting it. And these little Dynaudio Evoke 10s. Well, as I'm doing this review, and I'm going to do an actual review of the Dynaudio, may have already run, That speaker struck me not sounding like what I think Dynaudios are. I mean, Dynaudios can sound a little soft and laid back. This new generation of Dynaudio has more snap to it. It jumps more. And as I was listening to it, it's about the same size as a Harbeth P3 ESR. Now, I didn't have the Harbeth handy for comparison, but as I was listening with the Jadis, I kept thinking, you know, this kind of reminds me of the Harbeth the Evoke did. It evoked the P3 ESR. It had that kind of correctness of tone. It was satisfying, especially considering its small size, and I didn't have it near a wall. It was out in free space, good, maybe 4 feet away from a wall. The satisfying sound with acoustic music, yep, perfect, right on the money. The score for the TV show that very few people saw that I really loved, it was called The Nick. It was about a hospital in New York City in 1900. And strangely, it was a very period-oriented show, but the score was all electronic music by Clint Martinez, pretty much all synths, had a lot of deep bass going through it. And the sound of that score with the Cornwalls, with those big 15-inch drivers, yeah, the orchestra had no problem controlling those big woofers. It went down, 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 and yet definition was really quite good. So I rocked out a bit with the Pixies. They have a live in Boston record, again, extremely dynamic and great ambience of, you know, sort of being there in the club and hearing the crowd and everything, and yet the band is really intimate, and Frank Black is clearly having a great time. So it's a fun recording. They're kidding around a lot. The audience is totally into it. And I'm there. I'm along for the ride with the Cornwalls and the orchestra together, making it happen. Then there's this. The residents. You never see their faces. You just hear their weird sounds. And weird they are. I think this is their most strange, bizarre. It's a sort of a concept record of Eskimos and what they do, how they live. But it's just odd sounds, and it's ethereal, it's atmospheric, it's troubling, they want to screw with you on this record, the residents do. And hearing this one on the Cornwalls with the Jadis, it was something. It was, I'm sorry, I'm struggling here, but it was so good and so out of its time. That was it. You know, it just took me out, and I was lost in it. And that's the best thing. You know, isn't that what audio should be all about? Forget about the stuff. Just get into the music. Take you someplace you've never been before. And that's what I had. That's what was going on here. So there you have it. It's the Jadis Orchestra Black. If you're curious about tubes, if you're tube curious, this would be a great way to go. I think it'll drive any reasonable load in terms of speakers. It feels great, it sounds great, it's a company with a real heritage that goes back practically 40 years. My name's Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show. If you like it, please subscribe. If you want to know more about what I do, check out my Twitter at AudiophiliacMan. You can follow me on Instagram at steve.guttenberg. If you really dig it, if you really, really dig it, and you want to kick in a buck or two every now and then, check out the Patreon at patreon.com/audiophiliac. Thank you for watching.